Chapter 3, Natural Selection versus Evolution. Let's play a game. See if you can spot the errors here. Textbooks present evolution in two different ways: small observable changes, that be natural selection, speciation, adaptation, and large unobservable changes, that be molecule stem evolution. They show evidence for the former and then conclude that the latter took place as well. As our understanding of genetics has improved, it is becoming increasingly clear that mutations plus time plus chance do not equal evolution. All observed mutations demonstrate a loss of genetic information from the genetic code, or they are neutral. I'm once again sorry if any bullshit meters have exploded. I assume no liability. If you have any knowledge of science, you can spot the common canards present. They're making a distinction using the wrong definitions of micro-macro evolution, terms that fell out of use a while ago, may I add. As you can see, he's placed speciation and microevolution, ignoring the definition of it. Being succinctly, genotypic changes in a population. Phenotypic change is what macroevolution is, and speciation is usually a phenotypic change. What he seems to want is evidence of abiogenesis, a different though complementary field of biology. It's got nothing to do with evolution, but still, since we're in the information age, it means he has no excuse for ignorance on the subject. As you can see, another canard present, the mutations being harmful one. He's actually somewhat correct. The vast majority of mutations are neutral, and among those there are quite a few harmful ones. However, they do exist beneficial mutations, such as nylon digestion, increased bone density, increased muscle mass, resistance to high altitude, etc., etc. So, observable reality evidently disagrees with him. What's Mr. Patterson to do? From the end of his intro, it appears he screams "kinds," and we enter our journey down the rabbit hole. Down in the rabbit hole, he invokes the concept of kinds no less than 10 times. He ignores that speciation's evolution and instead repeats his intro, but in longer and more verbose terms. Supposedly, if you say a claim enough, it makes it true, as he's tried to accomplish with the canard, evolution cannot account for the gain in genetic information. Oh? How would you quantify information, Mr. Patterson? Number of chromosomes, species of bacteria can contain over 200 pairs, new traits. How about nylon digestion? Nylon, of course, being a completely synthetic compound non-existent until 1935. He then ends by repeating that a literal account of Genesis clashes with evolution, which is true. You can reconcile the beliefs by admitting the Bible is largely metaphorical/allegorical. Most rational people do that. Now on to the reference article. By the way, there are a whopping 38 articles and 15 questions to consider. This is gonna take a while. Reference article number 1. Natural selection and speciation. The answer's in magic again. It was just a repeat of the above with some genetic evidence. Ken Ham's favorite alliteration with the dogs in their heterozygous genes, all the while ignoring criticisms of the flood, how most of the animals could have survived on the boat, etc. Reference article number 2. Is evolution a fact of science? Well, yeah, and clearly frequencies change over time. This article, however, does not focus on the fact and theory canard, but mostly with the whole starting assumptions fallacy. He also claims that creationists are stifled, which they kind of are, but they brought that on themselves. Evolution scientists are still waiting to hear these assumptions they're making, other than every other field of science being correct. Reference article number 3. Darwin's illegitimate brainchild. The author of this is a tool. Of course Darwin borrowed from the ideas of colleagues. Scientists do that all the time. Article number 4. Design without a designer. No, evolution doesn't imply atheism. Why do people keep saying that? Is this such a bad thing? Grow up. Article number 5. Did God create poodles? This was barely coherent. Essentially restated his argument in the first article. Yes, this was Ken Ham, again. Article number 6, which is the same link as number 4. The hell? Either way, this is a better argument at the very least. This author invokes the canard same gene, same designer, though he doesn't refer to it that way. He says that believing special creation explains convergent and divergent evolution better, but does it really? Examples of convergent evolution haven't shown a code reuse, but more reinventing the wheel. Evolution, being a blind process, doesn't really know what it involves in other taxa. Divergent evolution works mainly in the same. Number 7. That's more the same gene, same designer argument. See above. Article number 8. The author of this article tries to defeat the entire argument of atavisms with a single case of the appendix, stating that all vestigial organs are just not understood by science, all the while failing to explain chicken with teeth, human with tails, etc. Article number 9. Wayne Gish focusing on a couple of the transitional fossils and being completely wrong. I'll link to a site that starts to understand just how whales evolved. Number 10. More of the loss of genetic info canard. He feels the need to repeat himself through his articles, apparently. Articles 11, 12, and 13, there's more kind nonsense, and in 14, it's an argument from incredulity, as is the entire book. Number Number 15 is more of the same. In number 16, the author doesn't know that DNA only goes for proteins and tries to use that a bacteria has more DNA than a human as evidence for creation because the bacteria shouldn't have more information. But the author neglects to mention that they're both just as evolved as each other. Numbers 17 and 18, well, it's another morally Vegas attempt to garner a few points among the theistic. Article number 19. Haven't we seen this kind of title before? Either way, he starts off with more kinds and delves into extinction somehow being a problem for evolution. He then claims that natural selection cannot lead to adaptation. What? And that this too is a problem for evolution, even though mutations are what lead to adaptations, so even though he's correct, he's horribly wrong. Then we finally reach irreducible complexity, specifically of the blood clotting system, which has been turned down in a court of law. Finally, the article ends with more laws of genetic info stuff. In Article 20, he uses a Scientific American article written in 91 to try and refute abiogenesis. Yeah. In 21, he brings up a plant called Arabidopsis thaliana, which can fix a mutation or recessive allele even without having the sequence in its genome. It's really impressive, and the author admits research is being done into it. But he inserts God into the gap. In numbers 22 and 23, there's even more mindless repetition. And as for 24 and 25, why the hell are these here? We're covering all this in the next chapter. In article number 26, I don't really care what the average American views on evolution. In 27, and there's more kind stuff, and the insane statement that peppered moss don't rest on tree trunks. That seems to be a breach of their precious 9th commandment. Number 28, he tries to play with math and makes the erroneous claim that the average human has 0 mutations. Yeah, this is what our creationist expert's stating. His next two statements are more same tired old arguments. Article number 29. Again, see number 9. 30. This article launches into a non sequitur on camels, but bonus for the alliteration. 31. This author attacks Haeckel's embryos and pretends as though Haeckel's embryos were somewhat fudged. Evolution's wrong. Number 32 is more tired old crap. Number 33 is more irreducible complexity, but this time with bioluminescence. I'll include a couple links to read on this rather interesting subject. Number 34, sickle cell anemia does not prove evolution. Well, no shit. The author tries to call us on a correlation fallacy between SCA and malaria, saying that somehow marriage customs and the like play into it, even admits there is some truth to the idea. 35. The author claims that Archaeopteryx is a real bird despite its clearly reptilian features, and then picks on Archaeoraptor. Then we have a new canard, the no missing link or no transitionals fallacy. More on that later. 36. Catching a kinkajou. The author claims that teeth don't decide whether an animal will be a herbivore or carnivore. That's true, and thus evolution is disproved, ignoring the other things that need to happen. Before a velociraptor will use its teeth to rip through melons rather than flesh. Yes, the author actually uses the example of a velociraptor. 37 and 38 is more crap, this time with viruses. Whew, that's over. Question 1. What mechanisms do scientists use to explain how mutations can produce new information to make organisms more complex when virtually all mutations cause a loss of information or no change at all? By the mechanism you claim does not exist, which is beneficial mutation. 2. Since information cannot be created from matter purely by natural mechanisms, and since this is not a part of the material universe, how did information originate? By what mechanism is new information added to the genomes in evolutionary history? Can the information gained be demonstrated experimentally? What do you mean by information? Unless it's clearly defined, I have no answer. 3. What direct fossil evidence is there that fish could have evolved into amphibians? Dictalic is 1. Could the alleged transitionals be interpreted in multiple ways? You can interpret anything as you like, as long as it's consistent and logical. Creationist interpretations have been neither. 4. When two lines of evidence contradict each other, how do scientists decide which line of evidence is more compelling? Scientists don't just pick one and ignore the other. They find out why the evidence contradicts. 5. Why is evolution the key to understanding biology? Because in biology, everything fits and works together in a cohesive manner. The example uses red herring, but knowing how diseases evolve generally helps in vaccination. Questions 6 and 7 are a misunderstanding and an outright lie, respectively. Number 8 is a stupid argument, and number 9 is also another morally vacuous one. 10. Are humans more special and important? No. Why does this bother you, though? 11. Is it possible to know the original function of an organ that is called vestigial, when most tissues are not preserved in fossils and the ancestor cannot be examined? There are a few assumptions made, but we can study the appendixes in other animals to see what their function is. 12. Does evolution predict stasis or progress? It predicts both. I hesitate to say any of those are correct. I don't want the members of the other two coming to attack me. 14. Why do scientists consider homologous structures evidence of a common ancestor when they seem to fit with the expected pattern, but scientists call it mixed convergent evolution when they don't fit the pattern? The two are more or less the same thing, just different wording and barriers involved. 15. What types of evidence would evolutionists accept as evidence against evolution? A fossilized Cambrian poodle.